Okay, so this should be where we left off. We are doing a fresh version for 2025 that should match in with everything else. We're going to start, make sure that you're on your theater floor plan layer, right? So not on your Garry Marshall plan, on your theater floor plan. We're going to show snap others, but not modify, right? So we want to be able to see and click on stuff that's in here, but not modify it. And we're going to start tracing this drawing and turning it into our 3D model. So I'm going to start with my polyline tool, right? We've used this already before if you did the hard mode of the door. And we are going to trace the stage deck itself. I'm going to start in this corner because you'll notice over here this corner is a little weird. We're going to start on this corner. You can use either the inside or outside of the walls, but I'm going to use the inside edge on this particular theater just to make my life a little bit easier. I did actually start there. That was weird of me. So one of the things that you can do when you're using the polyline tool, and I just did it, is you can hit delete a couple times to back your way out of something. So I'm going to start at this corner and just trace the shape of the stage. This whole layer is the stage. This we are going to use the arc mode, right? We'll use point on arc mode as we did on our door project to trace that. And then we can switch back into the straight lines mode to make our way around. We're going to use our snaps. So when we highlight, that turns red and it allows us to make a straight line that then matches up to that bottom edge. And then when we get back where we started, the shape will connect together and become a surface, which is great. Now we're going to take our stage deck, which is at the 0 point of our drawing, right? It's top Z, bottom Z, whatever is at 0. And instead of extruding it up into space, I'm actually going to extrude it down below. I know I have a certain depth to the stage if I come over here, right? I know there's a orchestra pit, but the piece that I care about here, right, is going to be the height. I need at least 2'6", right? Because that's the height between the stage floor and the lowest part of the seating area. So I'm going to use that as my downward extrusion. If you were going to be a little bit more specific, you could absolutely extrude your stage just this depth of the floor that's drawn and then build out this orchestra pit, but don't feel obligated to do that. So we're going to just extrude down minus 2'6" in order to match it to the lowest level of that orchestra pit. So extrusion minus 2'6". Okay. So now when I switch into my flyover mode, I have a dimensional stage, which is going to be very helpful in the future. Okay. We will come back and create a separate design layer for our whole audience area. So don't worry about that at the moment. If you wanted to, you could create sort of that deepest layer of that seating pit. But for now, we're going to leave it there and we're going to move on to working on our walls. So for the walls, and this is a little bit different, I'm going to show you the wall tool, and then I'm going to show you how to create custom walls. They're in the building shell section over here, the little house. The wall tool is right here. Our wall defaults to a theater flat, which is a wall style that I provided for you. Okay, it's the only wall style in this document. We actually need to create a different wall style for these exterior walls, right? Because the theater flat is only 3 inches wide, right? It doesn't quite get us where we're going on this whole exterior wall situation. So instead of that, we're going to create our own wall style for our exterior wall. And we're going to start by measuring that distance. So this is a 9-inch thick wall, and we're going to create a 9-inch thick exterior wall style, right? You'll notice your side walls over here. They are 11.5 inches, so some of our walls are different thicknesses, and we're going to have to play that out as we go around the room. But let's start by making this 9-inch wall for the back. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to grab my wall tool, It's defaulting to that theater wall style, which is not what I want. So I'm going to click on Wall Tool Preferences, and we're going to edit our wall preferences. The first thing I'm going to do, because I don't want this theater component, is delete it. Okay, and then I'm going to create a new wall component to replace it. And we're going to call this a 9-inch exterior wall. And we're going to use some specific pieces in order to create that, right? So it's defaulting to a hatch of bricks, which is not really what I need. I'm going to go into my Vectorworks library and pick up an ANSI hatch, right? ANSI hatch for cast iron, and that's going to give me diagonal lines, which are pretty standard to indicate an exterior wall, okay? I'm also going to change the thickness of this wall and make it 9 inches, right? Because that's how wide it should be. And I'm going to leave these pen styles alone, and they will be made in the overall wall component. So once I do that, now I have a basic wall that is a little bit thicker. I'm going to edit my wall attributes, make sure I like the thickness of the line, which it's going to be 0.18, so it's a relatively heavy line, and I think that that is great, and we say okay. All right, so now I'm going to save this as a wall style, and we're going to call it, again, a 9-inch exterior wall. Say okay, and now we should have the wall that we need for our upstage wall of our theater. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to come in here. So you'll notice when you have a wall, it's going to give you different options of how you are controlling the installation of that wall, okay? So right now it's in the left control line mode. I'm actually going to switch to the right control line mode because I'm starting here and drawing a wall in this direction, okay? If I start at the other end of the wall, I could use the left control line mode and that would make sense. But I'm going to start here, kind of work from left to right. So I'm using the right control line. And now you'll see it fits, right, basically along a ways to the end. I'm going to go all the way into the corner and then double click. And now I have this lovely exterior wall, okay? I need that 11.5-inch wall to turn around this corner. So I'm going to go back in, create another new wall, and I'm going to change this right here to be, instead of 9 inches, to make a new component. We're going to call it 11 inches. We're going to change the thickness to 11.5 because that's actually what it is, not 11. And we're going to say, sorry, I've lost the corner of my drawing. Say okay, right? 11.5-inch exterior wall, and save this as a wall style so that we have that option as well, right? So I make sure I only have one component. If I have more than one component, then my wall might be like a sandwich of 2 layers, which is a thing that some people had happen to them. But now I just have the one. I say, okay. Now I can start here, right? And it highlighted red because it's actually attaching this wall to that wall, so that's lovely. And I'm going to just keep going until this thicker wall ends, which looks to be about out here, okay? We're going to do a similar game on this side, but in order to sort of connect into that wall, I'll switch to the other control line. Okay. And just kind of dragging along until my wall thickness changes, which looks like it's happening kind of in here somewhere. So probably I switched to my 9-inch wall and would be able to continue along over there. Okay. So those are our major exterior walls. I'm going to actually drag this wall all the way to the outside edge, and now those two walls are connected. So that's really nice. Looking good. Working my way around. I do have some little kind of twitchy wall situations here in the back of the house that I can clean up. So I'm going to pick up my wall tool again. Go switch back to that 9-inch exterior wall, and I think that that is going to give me this back wall. Great. And then this is an even smaller wall, it looks like, than the 9-inch. So I can go grab a measuring tool, right? Pull that dimension. So that would be like a 6-inch wall. And I can go create a 6-inch wall that I can utilize. You will notice wall here has little curvy bit as it goes across, okay? And there is a curved wall option in the tool set. So it is defaulting to the straight line mode, but you can use a similar arc on 3 points mode as you're drawing your walls in order to create that curved wall option, okay? It used to be a separate tool, now it's built into the same tool. So you can use that to create this little curved wall in the alcove. It is okay if we don't have this lobby wall as a separate component, and as long as we get this sort of back wall situation sorted, we should be in good shape, okay? So those are our basic theater walls. Let me go in and quickly rough in these additional walls that are missing, and then I'll come back and talk about how we install doors, because the doors, some of them will go through those walls. So let's go ahead and fix our walls and make them the correct height. So right now our walls are, and you'll look over here, height of 10 feet, right? The actual height that I need, I think I want to go up to this height here, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and measure the height to the ceiling of the room from the stage floor. So that is 27'6". And I will go ahead and make all of my exterior walls that 27'6" height. I do have some shorter walls here in the lobby area underneath the booth, underneath the theater booth. So I might come in and make the walls that are sort of in the back of the house a little bit lower at that 10'6" height, or we can just leave them at 10 feet, which is what they would be by default. So let's go ahead and make just the walls of our room 27'6" tall. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to select just these walls that are inside the room. I'll take that back wall. Take these side walls. I'll leave the lobby sort of as it is. It can be lower and it's not a big deal. And then let's change the height to 27'6". And now my walls are tall, just like a real theater, right? When I'm looking into the theater, frequently I want to actually clear out this back wall so that I can see onto the stage from the perspective of the audience. And in order to facilitate that, I'm actually going to grab all of this business that's sort of upstage, upstage being the opposite, house, at the back of the house. And I'm going to create a separate class for this group of walls. We're going to just give them a new class, and I can see if there's a class already that I like. So I'm just going to go up to that new class button at the top, and then I'll type in walls-house, and that'll create a new class in a little twirl out. So now I have walls-house, and then these ones, the rest of them, we're going to call these walls-theater. So I'm going to just come in here, make a new class, and call them walls-theater. Okay. When I'm doing this, I'm actually both creating that class and assigning it to those components. So you're seeing they're turning off and on, which is kind of what we want to have happen as we build the theater plan. So those walls are now there. Great. Let's make this class active by hitting the checkbox on it. So now as we add doors, they will be attached to the same class as the wall that they belong with for our backstage wall, at least. We're going to start over here and we're going to find the door tool. It looks like a little door. We're going to pick that guy up. And it's going to give us just a basic default door. I'm going to start by plopping a door in for this one right here, okay? So to add my first door, and it's a little bit twitchy, so I'm going to show you a few things we can customize on this door tool. I think none of these are better. So I'm going to just roughly place it, and then I can fine tune the exact position of the door once it's inside the wall. So I'm going to just kind of try and hit right in the center of that position. Once I click the first time, and I have to make sure I'm hovering over the wall and it's turning red, right? So you'll notice I have it hovered over the wall, it turns red, that means I'm inserting this door into this wall. Now I can click once and my door becomes sort of a free-floating directional thing. I'm going to get it as close as I can to the way that it opens in the given drafting, okay? So I clicked and I kind of twirled it around until it's opening mostly in the way that I want. We now get to go in and sort of tweak some settings in order to get it to actually place the door up against the top edge so that it can open all the way. So all of these settings in the door are set, or like in over here, right? But we can also open up a door settings panel, which will open up this whole page of things that we can then mess with and tweak. So the first thing I'm going to do is insert relative to, and the choices are exterior face of the frame or interior face of the frame. I think I want interior, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to just say insert relative to interior face of the frame and then click OK and see what happens and see if that places it. It does, right? So now, instead of centering it in the wall, it has pushed it to that upstage edge, right? The outside edge of that wall. The other thing I want to change is that this shows it the door opening 180 degrees. And if I scroll down in settings, this is again also available in that other menu. One of the things that I can change is the angle that the door opens to, and I can make that 180 here. So now I have a door that is almost exactly like what was drawn originally and opens all the way open, folding flat against that exterior wall. There are a bunch of other settings that you can play with, and we can look at some of those later. But for now, that gives you your basic door, okay? Let's do a trickier one. So we're going to come over here and do this double door, which is opening to 90 degrees on one side and 180 degrees on the other side, okay? We're going to start with the same default and make some adjustments based on that. So I'm going to just toss in a default door, right? Now I'm going to come back and figure out exactly what it wants to be. So it looks like we have a width of this door. Oops, I moved the whole thing. Don't love that for me. Let's go ahead and just measure between those 2 points. So it looks like it's 7 foot 10 and a half, which means let's just quickly hide that theater wall and see. Yeah, so I want to actually measure on the door opening on the inside instead of here on the outside. So I'm going to measure all the way down to here. Get the whole door opening, 8 foot 4 and a half. Okay, so that's my whole opening of my door. So I'm going to now bring my theater walls back, right? Come click on this guy here. And we're going to change the total width to 8 foot 4 and a half inches. Now I have one giant door that's 8 foot 4 and a half, and it looks like it's measuring it based on the leaf, and I want to actually measure it based on the rough opening. So we're going to change that now to 8 foot 4 and a half inches. Great. So now it should be basically correct. I am going to pick it up and slide it to snap. Oops, I popped it out of the door accidentally. Popped it out of the wall. I'm going to just slide it over a little bit to try and get it to the correct position in the wall. Move half an inch. Does that do it? Too far? I want it to be lined up with there. Minus 1/4 of an inch. So move minus 1/4 of an inch. Great. Now it's actually lined up the way that it looks like it should be. Cool. Cool. Great. Okay, I think that's better. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to change over here is the configuration, which is currently a simple swing. But I actually need it to be a double swing by part, right? So I need it to be 2 separate door leaves, right? Not just the one. I also I want it to continue to swing direction out. And I'm going to switch it to unequal leaf, even though they are equal leaves, but I'm going to do that for a reason. Let's just kind of play that game. That should allow me to control one leaf independent of the other, in theory. But that may not be true. And then, what was the other piece that I wanted to look at? I wanted to change this thickness to try and match that thickness. So let's go into settings and see if we can find the thickness of that particular piece of trim. Frame. Yeah, so instead of the frame being 3/4 of an inch, I think this is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to just try that and see if that corrects. No, it's even more than that. Is that 2 inches? Measure. Oh, measure. You are all the way up to 2 inches? It's 2 inches. Okay. So we can come back in now and fix that. Let's make that in the settings. We will make it a width of 2 inches. Better. Great. Okay. And then that should shift all of those things to be correctly aligned. We want to change this and also place it on that outside edge. So we come back into our general tab and we have it interior face of frame, I think was what made it happy before. Great. Okay. And then I think, in theory, I set custom open angle on my second leaf. So my first leaf would be at 90 and my second leaf is at 180. Let's see if that did that correctly. Oops, nope, other way around. So my first leaf will be at 180. My second leaf will be at 90. So my second leaf wants to be open angle of 90 and my general open angle 180. Okay, let's see if that does it. It's correct. Okay, great. So I've fiddled with a bunch of things. It's not perfect to what was originally drawn, but it's much closer. It's very, very similar now to the original drawing. So if I turn off my X plan, that looks almost the same. Okay, great. Another thing I'm going to do while I'm playing this doors game, and this is something you actually should go back and do on your other one too. The standard for drafting, when we do theatrical drafting, would be to show the wall lines, right? And right now the wall lines are invisible. So I'm going to actually go back into settings, into 2D visualization. I'm going to say draw wall lines, and then instead I'm going to give them a line style, and I'm going to come in and update my wall lines to dashed spaced, which is going to give us that dashed line that indicates that it's cut through a wall overhead. Okay, so you'll come back in here and adjust this wall style in the lines to create those dashed lines to show where the walls are overhead. I think we also want to make sure that this door It's a bigger than usual door, and I don't have a height for it, but I'm guessing it's going to be taller than a standard door. So I'm going to just increase it to be proportional. So let's say instead of a 6-foot tall door, which would be standard, we're going to just make it an 8-foot tall door. So then it's at least more likely to be correct. So now when I look at it, it looks more proportional, right, relative to everything else that I have going on. I'm coming back in here now. I'm going to switch back into my theater walls class so that I'm creating it in the correct class for myself. Wall. Theater. Great. And then I'll drop in a door here. I'll drop in a door over here. I'll drop in a door over here. I'll put some doors out into the lobby. Those will go in the theater house class so that they disappear when I turn off that back wall. And once I've done all of those doors, then you can move into the drafting of the risers and chairs, which will be the next phase of the project.